Hey, this is Brandon Chase from Season 5 of The Voice, and you're listening to Dispatch Radio.
All right, folks, we talked to Captain Reedy about The Hornet's Nest, a great new film. It's headed out wide Memorial Day. If you are in the Texas-Oklahoma area, you may be able to catch us at a local screening. We have links to that. We're going to be publishing with this. We have with us now another great insight to the film and what it really brings to the table. Chaplain Justin Roberts. How are you doing? They call you Chappie, from what I understand.
Yes, that's I think the quick nickname they gave me when I first got there.
All right.
And I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Chaplain Roberts, tell us a little bit about the Hornet's Nest and what people can expect.
So this story is about one of America's longest-serving war correspondents, Mike Betcher. And as he travels with the Marines and several of the Army units that were in Afghanistan just a few years ago, and he's traveling to some of those dangerous locations, in this war. And we had actually met him during one of the largest operations, Operation Strong Eagle 3, is where I actually met him. And so this is a story about his journey along with his son as they go to the battlefield.
From what I understand, the ABC embed, we've captured 500 hours of live footage, folks. This is not a Hollywood production. This is not even, Act of Valor, Lone Survivor, or anything like that. This is just taking the live footage, being able, from a documentary sort of approach, being able to tell a tale and capture what our heroes, our brave men and women over there are doing for us every day in Afghanistan. So, Chaplain Roberts, what is it about this film that people are going to be most surprised by?
I think the reality. I mean, this is the story behind the numbers, and everybody knows the numbers from the war. They see it on the news, and they hear about it, and they have it's on their peripheral. But this is basically introducing people to the faces of the people who are fighting this war. Their stories, their struggles, and what we're really going through.
Captain Reedy said the only thing that's not captured is the smell. He goes, you're going to have bullets flying by your head. You're going to have the visuals. You're going to have the, the blood, guts, sweat, tears, profanity. It doesn't matter what it is. This is what's really there, down and dirty, in the trench. Is that the best way to explain it?
This is about as close as you can get to the war without enlisting.
Wow.
And this is because of the amazing team that has been working on this film for several years. And so this is it.
Who should see this film? We have a kind of polarized society. We got folks that are anti-war. We got folks that are, rah-rah war. We got, kids that are thinking about enlisting. What are those kinds? Who could really benefit from this film?
I think anybody who actually wants to understand this moment of history that we're in. This is America's longest war. We have all had some part in this. But not all of us have understood it. Not all of us have, gone down there and deployed. And so everybody's been connected in some way to this. And so I think this is just an opportunity for us as a country to stop, to understand the stories of these people who, of us, who are going over there, who are fighting and taking part in the struggle, for us just to pause and reflect on this. And this is actually perfect as we're coming up to Memorial Day. We need to understand the sacrifices that are being made, because these sacrifices and these wounds are going to soon come home. And we need to be able to connect on this. We need to have these conversations, especially now.
You're a unique chaplain, hence the nickname. You got a nickname. Many of them don't. You don't hang back. You're there, rough and tumble, with the guys. And from what I understand, how long were you on the ground in the middle of some of this?
Roger, I had a good first who, before we deployed, he said, what, if you really want to connect with the guys, you need to go out with each platoon at least once on a mission. And you need to be near the front, so that way you can do what you do as a chaplain. So, as guys are getting wounded and or even worse, so you can be with them in their points of suffering. And I took that advice. I took it to heart, and I just kind of made that my goal for the year. Just to connect with them, to walk beside them, because it's not like I'm doing anything special. I'm just simply walking beside them, in what they're going through. And my second master's is actually in media arts and communication, with film. And so I captured some of this stuff as well, just to kind of document this experience I was going through and we were going through without any understanding that it would ever even become something like this. So when I met Mike Betcher, we struck up a battlefield agreement that, I'd lend him some of my footage, and so that's how some of my footage got into this film. And wound up, his story wound up winning 2 Emmys, for the Memorial Day Nightline episode, and from there it became they started talking to producers and it turned into a film. That's kind of how it all came about.
And from what I understand, there's going to be a little bit of a follow-up that's going to focus on some of your work as well.
Yes, sir. And so it's going to be just from the chaplain perspective, all the way through from before the deployment, all the way through the deployment to, coming home. It's going to be the story about what I've learned from these guys, the lessons that they taught me as a chaplain. And we're titling the film No Greater Love.
Wow.
And that's really the premise of the number one thing that I've learned from these guys. I've heard a lot of sermons in my lifetime as a minister, but the most powerful sermon I've heard spoken by a person is actually not spoken. It's through their actions, watching the self-sacrifices that they have made, out of selfless love. That spoke to me. And so I'm really, the only thing I'm trying to do is just tell their story. All of my proceeds from this film are going to be donated towards military charities that help guys who are still struggling with the visible and invisible wounds of war. So if people want to get connected to that, we're actually looking at doing an Indiegogo fundraiser, which is just, they donate if they want to see the film made. They donate. We give them back prizes, direct downloads, T-shirts, what have you. But we don't have that set up yet, but we do have the Facebook site set up yet, which is called No Greater Love, the movie, and they can like us on Facebook.
No Greater Love, the movie. Folks, we're talking with Chaplain Roberts. He's connected with the group that is the centerpiece of this great film. It's coming out at the end of the month, Memorial Day wide, The Hornet's Nest. And, we talked about this with Captain Reedy. What a great tagline. This is not based on a true story. This is the true story. And that's such a striking message. And to know we have 500 hours from ABC's embed to shoot from and to pull from and to be able to capture everything but the smell, to quote Captain Reedy. That's just so powerful. I can't wait to see this and get my head around, this Afghanistan conflict on a completely different level. And for you, Chaplain, that were there and dealing with this, now, the other aspect I'd like to get to is, how and what do you say and how do you coach the men through the religious aspects of this? There's a couple layers. Let me first come at it from a personal level. Scriptures that come to mind, or there certain things that people are looking for, or is it just encouragement? Is it just, what is it that you find mostly being on that front line?
Nothing brings reality home like war. And I had a soldier who one time said it really well. He was like, it's like trying to explain a color that only you have seen. There's not words. And in most of those moments, I don't have words, and I don't think there's any good words that really fit. I love them, and they love each other, and it's being there. That's, I think, the most profound kind of statement that we can make. And then afterwards, after moments when we're trying to process what has happened, that's when the questions start rolling out. Why would God allow war to happen? Why would there be this kind of suffering? And that's when the stuff gets a lot harder to answer. And
well, especially because you're face to face with the dark side of that, right? It's hard to keep the focus, and as I interact with so many folks who are kind of on the negative side of their faith, they blame God, they hate God, they're angry at God, or whatever. And it's, when you're in the face of war, you're in a different part of that, but it's the same kind of darkness, and it's hard to see the benevolence, loving God that has allowed free will. And because of that, the humans have messed everything up. The humans are at fault here. Don't drag God down, right? Don't put an anchor. I heard a pastor once say, "Don't put the proverbial concrete block shoes on God because of what we did."
And that is the answer. Because it's this, while we were down there, we had a female suicide bomber who wound up killing 2 of our guys and 2 kids. And afterwards, I had a couple of chats with some of the guys, and they're just like, how in the world is this possible? Why would God allow this, something like this to happen? And it's just, This wasn't God's will on this one. God does state out His will on how He wants people to live and how He wants people to love and connect. This is outside His, what He wants, but people too have free will. And man, we're making a mess of it. Yeah. And what we're fighting for is so that way that girl, we're fighting so that way, the girls like that and the young men would not be indoctrinated with that kind of evil, with that kind of darkness. Because that she was about 14 years old. There was no way she had chosen to go down that path on her own. We know that she was abused. We know that she was programmed, and we're fighting evil. And that's the tough stuff, though.
Let me touch on that too, because when you're dealing with Islam, and a lot of questions are going to come up, the soldiers themselves are, they've been briefed on some different aspects of religion and that kind of thing. But when it comes to the role of the chaplain, how do you help sort of minister to this sort of piece of it? I mean, it's, religion's in the centerpiece of this. I mean, it's kind of shocking. You're in the middle of war, yet at the same time, it's because it's a holy war. In their eyes, this is part of their religion. And it's a little hard to get your head around that coming from America. We don't live in that culture. We've never grown up in a world where our churches told you to do this. And we know we've had acts of violence. We know we've had different sort of outliers to that equation. But by and large, I mean, that is not even a percent. I mean, it's fractions of percents compared to Islam, where it is enrooted in their religion, or at least some major factions of their religion. So how do you work in that dynamic?
I mean, it's there's a lot of religious conversations that go on with the guys. Cause
I bet.
I think everybody is trying to understand this, because we really are encountering something that's foreign to us. I mean, it's not just a foreign language; it's a foreign ideology, it's a foreign mode of thinking, and with the extremists. And this is difficult. I mean, because this is a clash of ideals, between liberty and subjugation.
Yeah.
The stuff that we, are pushing for it actually pushes us to connect more in what we stand for, as a country, I think too. We are having to really figure out that. I mean, there are stretches to things that we won't accept. We're not going to accept extremism. We're not going to accept subjugation. We are going to fight for justice and liberty. We believe in this. This is who we are. And that's I think, a pretty powerful thing, that this isn't going away. Even after this war ends, this is still going to be a conflict. And so we have to have these conversations now. And, the American public does have to engage with what's going on with this war. And that's why, I mean, this film is important. These films are important, because it's trying to begin that conversation that we need to have.
Well, folks, that is really the cut and dry of it. The Hornet's Nest. It's going to open wide Memorial Day. There's also another follow-up to this called No Greater Love, which you can get and track down at No Greater Love, the movie, on Facebook. We'll link to that, so you can kind of keep in touch with the chaplain's fundraising efforts there to make sure that piece of it happens as well. But what a great and powerful concept for you to get your head around, the Afghanistan conflict, the sacrifice by these men and women and people in the front lines like this. Sadly, the loss of life, not only from our own men, but also, like you mentioned, the 14-year-old female suicide bomber. You let that sink in for a minute and then try to understand, how do we deal with that? And that's kind of the world that we're in, and this film, I think, can really help put that in perspective, maybe help you understand the sacrifice that your son or daughter may be getting themselves involved with by joining and enlisting, and it's so profound, and I really hope that you'll turn out and support this film and really get engaged. And can you give out the web address and stuff so folks can really kind of get the schedule and that information as well?
Yes, we are right now. We're working from the Facebook page, because we're on the the early end of our productions for this, but. So we do have, No Greater Love, the movie, on Facebook, and NoGreaterLoveTheMovie.org is the webpage we are currently setting up. So we are trying to get the awareness out there, because we're going to be looking for support as much as we can, just to help tell the story, and also just to simply get people involved in the discussion. So we definitely appreciate that.
And this film is called The Hornet's Nest, and it does open Memorial Day, and we'll look forward to turning out and supporting that, and definitely a great experience. Chaplain Roberts, thank you so much for joining us. You can hang on the line for just 1 second, and I appreciate our time with you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.